Joining us now, the voice of the Iowa State Cyclones. The last time he was seen doing what he does so well, it was just down the row from Dave Hunziker, my teammate in football, and he was calling basketball in Kansas City as Oklahoma State and Iowa State played one of the two games that actually got played in the Big 12 tournament. John Walters, voice of the Cyclones, and John. That I wasn't up there, but I've talked to Dave and John about it, and also Mike Holder, the athletic director. That had to be one of your weirder trips to KC.
Yeah, I'd say that's putting it mildly, Robert. For sure, it was, and scary. I mean, for everybody, not really knowing what was going on. Bob Bowlesby had a press conference literally 5 minutes before we tipped off that game at 6 o'clock. Saying that the game's the next day. We're going to have no spectators, and we were getting that news as we were already on the air and getting ready to tip. In that game, and at that point, your mind starts churning out all these different possibilities, and it was just a very strange time, and it was a heck of a basketball game. I mean, both teams
Yeah, it was.
played; they really played hard. Nobody knew that was the last game for both teams that day. Certainly for Oklahoma State, there was going to be a further addition to their season in all likelihood. And with Iowa State, if they lost, that was going to be the end. But man, they played like it. They played like it was the last game, and they really left everything out there. And it was a fun game to call, and the crowd was great. And and then you wake up the next morning, and I came back home to Iowa the next morning, and then all the news started hitting that the arenas were being emptied out, and it seems surreal that was just a month ago, but it was just a little over a month ago, and life changes in a hurry. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I was sitting in the parking lot the next day, eating a salad from one of the local stores, grocery stores, salad bar, getting ready to go in and watch spring football practice, and Johnny Barr, who's one of the support staffers for Mike Gundy's football staff, comes out and goes, looks at me and goes, is this Armageddon or what? And I'm like, because we had just heard everything had been canceled, not just the NCAA, but when they cancel all the spring sport championships, and I'm looking at a tennis center that's was scheduled to host the NCAA men's and women's tennis championships, and then beyond that, just over, and you can see it rising up, a baseball stadium that was going to be opened in a couple of weeks. And when you see all that thing all of a sudden just thrown aside, and I saw how quickly your athletic director Jamie Pollard responded with some cuts in some salaries and bonuses. You see everybody is hunkering down, and it is scary.
It is, and I'm so grateful for several things that you just mentioned. And number one, I'm grateful that the NCAA offered up another year of eligibility to those athletes in those spring sports that didn't get the opportunity to go compete. And, I mean, that's what it should be all about. And so, and I know at Iowa State, several of those athletes have already said, I'm coming back. So that's fantastic news. They definitely deserve the choice on that. And I'm very grateful that happened. And you mentioned also Jamie Pollard. I think all of us in our athletics department are very grateful for his leadership. I think all of us, I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I can't imagine that anybody doesn't feel this way. When Jamie announced that he was going to have a 10% pay cut across the board throughout the athletics department, and the coaches' bonuses with their approval, the reasoning was that Iowa State, like every other school, lost $5 million by there not being an NCAA basketball tournament. And in order to continue to operate in a functional way, he had to somehow try to make up that $5 million. And this is what did. He gained back about $4 million of it. And I think everybody was on the same page pretty much of, hey, yes, let's all do our part because we don't want to see any of our coworkers lose their jobs. We don't want to lose our jobs. But that's a reality, a very grim reality that I think a lot of institutions are going to be facing here in the coming months if the longer this goes on. And so, for Jamie to be proactive, I think he was the first athletics director anywhere in the nation to do something like that, and to get everybody on the same page. I mean, when you think about the complexity of something like that with the agents and all the head coaches agreeing that they're going to take a cut and forego their bonuses, and some of those bonuses are pretty large amounts of money. It just shows, I think, what a good leader he is and the culture of the athletics department, that we're all on the same team and we all want to do our part. And so I thought that was a great move, and I'm guessing that others are going to follow suit on that eventually. Some probably already have, but it's a challenging time for everybody. Everybody's trying to find a way to find that extra few dollars in their budget to be able to not have to make massive changes in personnel, and it's just a real challenge. But I'm glad that Jamie kind of got out in front of it.
Yeah, I want to get back to that, but I want to say something too that I thought about this, and it kind of plays into the similarities that I think are out there with Oklahoma State and Iowa State. Just so you know, I know that when we come up there, and I hope it's the same way when you come down here, we feel really comfortable, and it's fun when you come in our booth and your broadcast team comes in there and we sit down and talk. We like that. I mean, Dave and John and I and Britt, our producer engineer, all of your guys are the same way. I just wanted to compliment you and your crew. It's fun for us to go to Iowa State. We enjoy going there, and part of it is the camaraderie that we feel like is extended between our two broadcast teams.
Well, I really do appreciate you saying that, and I just spoke to Dave about a week ago, just calling him to pick his brain on something. I think the world of your gang that you have there, John, is exceptional. All you guys do a great job, and I just, that to me is the really special thing about what we do, is the relationships, and that's what's so hard right now, is to not be able to have that face-to-face contact with people we care about. And we're blessed in the Big 12. I don't know that any other league has a group of announcers that get together prior to the men's basketball tournament.
Oh yeah, you guys have a hoot.
We do. We have all the play-by-play guys, all the color guys, engineers. We all have a gathering. We get dinner together, but we shoot ideas off each other, and then we just share stories, and we have a lot of laughs. And that camaraderie is special, and I don't know that it exists everywhere, but I will say this about, you mentioned Iowa State and Oklahoma State and their relationship, and I do think that the original Big Eight members that are still in the league, there is kind of a special bond between all of us, and especially the land-grant institutions. And I think, Iowa State and Kansas State and Oklahoma State, I always kind of felt that way, that there's just a bond between those schools. And I'm not sure exactly how I can put a finger on it, but I absolutely feel the same thing. And so I'm grateful to hear you say that, and I'm glad you have enjoyable visits to Ames. We certainly have the same feeling about Stillwater, absolutely. So really appreciate you saying that.
Well, and you just talked about the kind of the brotherhood, and I didn't know whether to throw Kansas, because I know you guys have had some of course we've had some knockdown drag out battles with Iowa State.
That's part
but
of
it. Kansas State and Iowa State have had a few of those as well, and of course we've had them with Kansas State. But I do feel like all three are similar. Let me get the ID in here real quick, and we'll finish up with this last question for John Walters. But let's get an ID in real quick, make everybody happy back home. Well, okay. Well, we'll get the ID in after this then. All right, John, getting back to it, I do think there is a lot of similarity between Oklahoma State and Iowa State. And when Jamie Pollard threw out some numbers, and then Mike Holder a couple of weeks ago threw out almost identical budget numbers and how much football makes up of that the revenue that goes into that budget. We don't know. I mean, we can't predict. Obviously, I think Mike Gundy got in the business of predicting, got in a little bit of trouble. But the thing I look ahead for the fall for both schools need football, obviously, for budgetary reasons. But I also look at what Matt Campbell's got coming back, and I look at what Mike Gundy's got coming back. These are two football teams that have a chance to truly contend and maybe break that stranglehold that Oklahoma's had on the Big 12. And God, I mean, you can't predict it, but boy, you hate to see it disrupted or not have that opportunity because this could be really special for both schools.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think no matter how we all might differ in our predictions on what might happen and when it might happen, we're definitely all on the same page on one thing, and that's what we all want. That's for the season to start as scheduled. We would all love to see that. That would mean great news for our society. It would mean great news for the world. And let's just pray that happens. And we have been. I know you have probably. I have been every single day praying for that result. And not because it's so important that we have football, but obviously the bigger reason, the bigger picture, is such a small part of the equation. But it is a huge part of the equation of an athletics department. And Iowa State and Oklahoma State, I think, are positioned to do quite well. I think one thing that gives you maybe a little bit of solace if you're thinking strictly in terms of football is, look at your roster and look at your coaching staff and how long have they been there and how much continuity is there among the staff and then look at your roster and how many veteran guys are coming back at key positions. And I think from an Iowa State perspective, I'll just speak on our behalf. I know that, and you're certainly the same with Coach Gundy and his staff, but Coach Campbell and his staff, there were a few changes. A new strength coach came in. There's a new coach that came in that had been the offensive coordinator at Northwestern has come in. He's going to take over the running backs. But there hasn't been wholesale changes on the Iowa State staff. And then you think about a situation like Baylor, perhaps, where, Matt Rule moves on and all of a sudden you have a new coach. And I think there's just a couple holdovers from their previous staff. And so just imagine the craziness and the chaos of trying to go through a coaching staff change and the hires and all the stuff that goes with that and getting everybody on the same page. And then all of a sudden to have spring football ripped away, it has to be absolutely nuts, and I'm not saying Baylor won't be good because they've got a lot of really good returning players. It's just going to be harder for them, I think, to be good than it will for an Iowa State or an Oklahoma State that has that continuity. With Iowa State to have Brock Purdy back and all those tight ends back, receivers and running backs. Yeah, I mean,
you guys are tight end you, John. Tight end you.
Well, right now we are. Gosh, I can remember when we used to joke when Matt Campbell took over that our tight ends led our team in passes broken up because they couldn't catch anything. Okay, but now it's three guys that all return that have all had Big 12 honors, and one of them's an All-American. So yeah, definitely. Feel good about that. The offensive line's a little bit more of a question mark, but the defensive line's really strong. Defensive back. So I guess what I'm getting at is there's so many returning pieces at Iowa State that you feel like, okay, nobody's benefiting from not having spring football, but can you absorb it a little bit better at maybe an Iowa State than you could at a Baylor given their circumstances? I think the answer is probably yes. And so, we'll see if there's a season, when there's a season. Is it a fall season? Is it a fall slash spring season? Is it just a spring season? I mean, who knows? Anybody who says they know, I think, is just guessing at this point. And so, we hope for it to return in some way, shape, or form, and hopefully we can get lost in a game for a few hours on the day and kind of forget about all this stuff that we've gone through. And I think, when that happens, people are going to appreciate those moments a lot more, to be in a stadium full of their friends and feel safe doing it and to enjoy a college football game is something that we've always enjoyed. I don't think anybody's ever taken that for granted. But, man, I think there's going to be a whole new appreciation for it next time it happens.
I told my wife, I said, first football practice I see, I may ball. So, yeah, I mean, hey, listen, best to you and your family and everybody up there at Iowa State, your broadcast team. And if you see Matt, Matt Campbell, I know Matt well. He's good friends with my son. And tell him I said, hey, and you guys stay safe, and we will look forward to when we can all get back together again, because it is special.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Robert. Really appreciate it.
Hey, John, thank you.